Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, are your hosts and the managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, the power behind the program. They're practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. And visiting in studio, Cassandra Nicholas and Taylor Scruggs-Smith, also attorneys at Whitaker and Hamer. And there are offices located conveniently for you: Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, and Morehead City. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Each and every week we do legalese. We get into the topics. We have some fun with you, but we also get into the serious issues when it comes to legal. And if you've got any questions about what you're going through and you need some answers, you can always call Whitaker and Hamer. 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact info, briefly what the call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And again, you can always email your questions to the show. We'll answer them on air in a future program. Questions at theoutlawlawyer.com. And again, we've gotten into a lifehack.org list, situations where you need a lawyer and some where you don't. And we are down to wills and trusts.
Before we get there, Morgan, I want to backtrack for a minute. We were telling our listeners earlier on that we were nominated, our podcast, a version of the show.
Have we already been eliminated?
No, not to my knowledge. But
breaking news.
But we were nominated for a 2022 People's Choice Podcast Award for best. What was it, Cassandra?
Politics and news
show ever.
Yes.
And so it's a field of less than 10, more than 5, less than 10.
Exactly 10.
10. And our competition, we got some stiff competition in this category. I don't remember the name of the show. What was the name of the show, Cassandra? Do you remember?
The Problem with Jon Stewart.
With the Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
With the Jon Stewart.
What about The Solution with the Outlaw Lawyer?
I wonder if this gives us an opportunity where maybe we could call Jon Stewart, since we're in the same category.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's like, hey, we're the same. You know, I can talk to you. I don't know.
We should send him a shirt.
You got a cell phone number, Josh?
I think Morgan needs one first, but
Morgan wants a hoodie
Jon
specifically.
It's getting chilly in here. I'm just saying.
All right, so we're doing this list. No, we all don't like this list. We've spent many minutes now with this list, and we're not super pumped about its non-legal advice that it's giving. But anyway, we're going to keep going because we're on number 8, wills and trust. And so this is certainly, I personally, can you draft your own will? Can you write your own will? Yes, you certainly can. And just like anything else, you could do that. Man, I've seen some people make some super duper important mistakes handling their own wills, handling their own trust, handling their own, I would even throw in estate administration, estate probate issues. If you have any assets you care about and any loved ones, I would not recommend handling this on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do estate administration as one of my main practice areas. So I see after folks die when wills are done badly. And the thing about wills is if yours is drafted badly, you might not know it. You're going to die before it's ever an issue for anyone. So it might not be your problem, but your wishes will not be followed if your will is not valid. So there are some really common mistakes that, for instance, there not being any witnesses to a will written by an individual. In North Carolina, you need witnesses to the will. And then if the will is going to be what they call self-proving, it also needs to be signed by you, the two witnesses, in front of a notary. There are ways around that to prove your will after you die. If your witnesses are still alive and accessible, we can go get affidavits from them. Please don't make it that hard for your family. The whole point of this will is for your wishes to be followed and to make the after-death process as easy on your family as possible. So save everyone the trouble. Get a lawyer to draft your will so that you know it complies, it does what you want it to do.
And I would add into that, because I often tell my family law clients, you have that year-long separation. Obviously, we don't wish any bad will upon you, but you never know what can happen to you during that year-long separation before you're divorced. Get a will done. And a lot of people don't know what the general statutes are in terms of what will happen if you don't have a will, who gets what. So when you tell them that, hey, if you're not actually divorced yet, the spouse gets this much, and they kind of get crazy about it. And it's like, that's why we're saying get a will.
So you're advising people right when they're consulting with you to change their will while they're separated?
Yes, because again, that year-long separation, you don't know what could happen. And in the eyes of North Carolina, if you're not divorced, you're married. So God forbid something happens to you and you're not divorced yet. And now the person you were trying to divorce is getting half of your estate.
That's good legal advice, Taylor.
You know,
Thank you for that.
Like, that was my rock star moment of the day.
I've never seen anyone try to, at least in my practice, you know, I'm usually looking at this stuff after you're gone, right? You know, if you've prepared your own will or what have you, we're not usually looking at it till you're dead and gone, so you're probably not worried about it anymore. But I've never seen anybody even attempt to create their own trust. You know, trusts are very complicated, there's some uniform laws between states, but still some state specific items that you're going to want to do. You know, a trust is something you create to hold title to real property, can hold title to cars, can have bank accounts, and you're trying to avoid probate or maybe some taxes. There's all kinds of reasons why you might form a trust, but trusts are very, it's something an attorney needs to look at. I'm not a big fan of the, I think at Whitaker and Hamer, at least, I can't speak for every law firm. I think we really try to be affordable for the services that the average person needs. And so to get it, if you're in a position where you need a trust, you probably got some assets you're trying to protect. It's worth spending the money to make sure it's done correctly. Bad trusts are hard to unwind. You can cloud title. You can really make a mistake that really is going to hurt your heirs. And this is where I get on my soapbox. I'm not a fan of these. I don't want to mention any of the names because I don't feel like our show should get sued. But these self-help, right, will help you create a form. You just answer these yes/no questions. Man, I've seen a bunch of deeds, a bunch of wills, a bunch of trusts that really caused a lot of concern because you just need someone who knows what they're doing to look at some things.
And to not cost you and your family more later. Like, fixing those title issues is expensive and annoying.
And I tell you, most families, not every family, but most families, there's one person, cousin, sister, brother, there's an ex-spouse. There's somebody that's going to cause issues with your estate once you're gone, right?
Josh, tell us who that one person is in your family. We won't tell anyone.
We don't have that person.
Hey, we won't tell anyone.
But there seems to be, in most families, the person that if there's any ambiguity, if there's anything to challenge, if there's anything that can be done to make it harder, they're going to make it hard, right? And so that's what you want to do. You want to alleviate any ambiguity. I know we're coming up against a break. Wills and trust. Yeah, I think you always need an attorney. That's what I'm going to say.
Especially if you're trying to disinherit anybody.
Oh, yeah.
The Outlaw Lawyer. We are going to be back on the other side, and we will wrap up the program again, having some fun with a lifehack.org list, situations where you need a lawyer and some situations where you don't. That's coming up next on the Outlaw Lawyer. If you've got a legal situation you're facing, you can always contact Whitaker and Hamer, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. You can email your questions to the show, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. And if you do call, just leave your contact information and briefly what that call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. We're back on the other side, and we'll wrap this one up.